Welcome back to another episode of 33 Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Michael Abney, and today I'm joined by Abdul. He's a content strategy leader, founder of McKinney Bent Digital Consulting, and a spoken word artist. There's something here today about not choosing just one version of yourself and what that actually asks of us. And today we're going to be talking about it. Abdul, welcome to the pod. How are you doing today?
Doing well. It's nice to be here and learn about 33 Conversations and yourself.
Yeah, and you in this quandary that you're in. I just find it a fascinating conversation because there's so many things when we're starting a business or founding something that has multiple hats that you have to wear and how to do them authentically. And I just really a really awesome conversation. But before we dive into that, there's something that I kept noticing as I looked at your path through your application and meeting you. You spent so many years inside of a system where alignment was everything, where your role was to bring clarity across competing voices. And now you're in a different kind of alignment, not across departments, but across parts of yourself. The strategist, the founder, the artist, which a lot of us have those combinations, and it doesn't feel like those parts sometimes neatly fit together. But I want to start today and start here with what transformation are you in the middle of? What changes have you noticed that you're making to now that you're over here in this space, like shifting from that operator to owner to the architect? What have you noticed about your own systems and your own works that you may see on the sidelines? Hey, I've got to add that back into the mix. For me, it's always some form of taking care of myself health wise. It's a lot of balls to juggle to make sure that, there's no wealth without health. But we get bogged down, especially wearing all the hats, and there's only 24 hours a day. What have you started to learn to change about yourself or your routine or how you're looking at something that you're not leaving out these really key components about you and how you're operating that now that you're the owner of it, not just the operator? What have
Right.
you
I think
noticed?
what I'm noticing now too is just how I'm managing tactics that we tend to undervalue is how do we wake up in the morning and how do we exercise and how do we sleep? Where I think really over the last week, I'm starting to focus is hey, maybe I don't need the telephone screen by my bed. Maybe just leave it in a separate room. And this is just 1 week of how to manage the internal body and the self. It's just how do I sleep? How do I wake up? And when I first wake up in the morning, what do I do? And really focus on the activity where I think in times where we're just awake and we sit here and thinking, okay, I want to do 25 things that I put either in notes or reminders, when the first instinct is, okay, do I feel fresh after a night in rest? And how do I get the physical body going? Is maybe some exercise of stretching and walking without the phone, just to release the breath and imagine the possibilities of the day simply. And that's, again, the element of simplification. It's just how are you managing your body when you wake up in the morning and when you go to bed? Where I think sometimes we do try to input too much data, and that can overwhelm and stress out. And it's a practice that I think at the same time that I'm really explaining in public is okay, just, keeping the bed separate from your telephone. And also, how when you wake up in the morning, are you stretching out? Are you taking a walk? If time does permit, even if it permits 45 minutes, even a 5-minute walk, just you move to the left, you circle back, and that can even benefit in a short period. So it's really about internal clock time management. It's a practice that will really contribute to accomplishing goals at a faster pace that we were seeking from the beginning.
Yeah, it's some people don't place value on it, especially because you're right at the beginning stages of this.
Yeah, it's a year and a half too, right?
Okay, that's in the beginning. think most people don't like talking about this part of the journey. I found people are resistant to it because they want to, have the looking good going on, and I've already got the X. I think it's really powerful to talk about it when you're in the middle of it. This is what this whole podcast
Yeah.
is really focused around. But at the beginning of that middle is also there's fear in there. There's so much level of uncertainty that you've got to manage that brings up, it's just natural to resist the things that we can't grasp. So one element is managing that space about taking care of ourselves. Sleep is so important, and how our mindset and mind frame is huge awareness that I had about not having electronics in my sleep space and how important those spaces are. That didn't come till much later for me because I was the guy that was like, I would go till I would fall over, and then, but it takes a toll because those hours that you're managing to get your stuff done requires you to be clear. You can get so much more stuff done, so it does help in the bigger scheme when you add that in at the beginning. So awesome. I just want to point that out, how powerful that is. Most people overlook that, but it is so powerful for longevity, keeping you going strong while you're in this space of uncertainty, because it burns a lot of energy in our batteries every day, just having to deal with all of the unknowns. Have you noticed a part of you that has been resistant to anything as you've been through the last year and a half of this, at the beginning
I
of
think,
this transition?
just examining the resistance, I think it comes to the internal ability to execute dual tasks. That's that's kind of the space, the resistance where, and I think the feeling too to examine is like, I still like to write poems at night as well, where it used to be more often in the past. I would just attend to a local coffee shop or go to the library or even a bar and just write poems about specific topics, where it's about, you know, today's administration, or also talking about a past relationship, the failures of it. And it's still within. I think there's still an innate propensity to create an imaginary experience. But I think now the juggle is also thinking, okay, well, can you imagine never doing that? Because that possibility doesn't seem to exist within me. But I think it's just also, it's saying like, okay, I'm also handling the business operations. Have I reviewed tax documents, for example? And it isn't a matter of negligence. It's just like, okay, I know that there's some time, and I will be aware that now that the head is clearer and the
Yeah.
body's streamlined and balanced, it would be used to just check and understand, okay, well, these are the timeline is coming. And I think as far as exploring the outreach for investors and capital management, we'll be able to manage the dues of tax deadlines. And it's not even worth the
Yeah, of
anxiety that we
course.
discussed a little bit. It's like, wait, what am I even bothering with that? It's just maintain the balance of how you wake up, how do you sleep, and I think the rest will take care of itself.
It does, especially when we don't let parts of ourselves that want to, like you were mentioning, you have the love of writing poetry, spoken words. Share a little bit more about your headspace and your vision about what it is that you're creating, and how is that playing a role in um, keeping all of those things alive at the same time without losing that balance of, yeah, someday in the near future, I'm going to have to, have energy for the number side of things. But when you have the creative side of things in the business, how does that play out? Like, do you ever find yourself trying to conform in any way? Because like you're dancing in this space where all the things are out there. How does that affect you
How does
without
it
shrinking
affect?
back?
It's very interesting too. I think it's now a space of really imagining how to execute in the future, because in the past where I had a brief period where I was bouncing out. For example, there was one day that I did provide some digital services for Con Edison, which was a New York's um electricity company. Where basically they power all the all the energy sources of Con Edison. So by day write I would
Yeah.
basically write product descriptions, and then at night too I would host a talent show. And those days were, I think, to even get to the emotional perspective, that's kind of the period where I didn't miss having that balance. And then I'm still able to maybe sleep a little less and ate and drank a little more. But now I think this is a good reflection where it's like, okay, now if I transition and that balance period does return, I think I can handle it much better now too. Maybe it's just due to age and maturity that could factor in. And I think even having this conversation would be a good footnote to remind. It's like how to balance the body and the mind. And the spirit is like the intent, the desire. But then when the body and mind are better balanced, and it's easy to control the spirit, to center the health, to see the wealth in fullest form.
What is your network, not your work network, but your personal network that you support system that you have? How do they feel about you taking out and
They
creating
feel
this for yourself?
they feel really good about it. I think there's even the sense too where they could they're kind of like waiting for me to come back out and bring the energy again because they didn't miss it because we did a lot of collaboration for these events. For example, like I would, uh, I would, read a poem out loud in a public space, and the guitarist would perform behind me. And then there was also a DJ who would produce the sounds and the waves behind me. And that element is not in at the moment. And I think there's been some calls like, "Hey, will you just come to this event and we just talk about future collaborations and partnerships?" So that's again the best feeling is like, "Hey, we missed that. We need you back for that." And I kind of anticipate like, okay, maybe just that one break
Hmm.
that will kind of spotlight it and re-engineer the journey to get back and bring this collaborations and partnerships that are in idle moment at the time. But yeah, I'm ready to return that and also just come in and execute the task in alignment with the timeline. Like we're gonna do some sound checks, practices, either someone's home or maybe a studio, and then we go live, execute it, we get it filmed, and you never know where there could be some other arts and culture reporters who want to engage, get future spotlight. And that's the excitement part of it.
Yeah. That's how does it feel now being more visible and bringing more of yourself to the table as you're opening up this next chapter of your life? How does that play in? Because there's obviously it's probably part of the reason why you wanted to expand out into this space and go through all of this uncertainty was for that. Like what's your experience of that of now
It
being more visible
feels,
out there?
I think it
Or what's your
feels
feedback that
even
you've been getting?
more exciting. It's just like, hey, I think it would be good to be seen, heard, felt, understood from a day and night perspective where it's during the
Hmm.
morning, I'm working with the other scientists and the other designers to execute campaigns. And then at night to perform in spaces at the Brooklyn Arts, yeah, Brooklyn Academy of Music, for example. It's like, you know what? It doesn't matter. I mean, I miss that higher end. It would feel even more authentic in the sense that it's more established where the foundation was built. And then now I think the foundation will be seen at a higher dimension. I think because of the transition of developing a consulting practice, it's like, now was it intended? And I think that's a question I haven't even examined within is like, it wasn't intended. I think it was also due to the industry shift of AI that has affected a lot of my other colleagues who are also in the
Yeah.
advertising world, who are
Yeah.
also in the legal world, where there's even been some firms have dropped talented associates, paralegals, partners. So I know that really the shift of communication and technology has kind of put people now to really transition how to be independent forebearers of truth and information. So that could be why halting prices happen. Is like, okay, well,
Yeah.
maybe just gotta guardrail all the data because it's plenty of it. It's delivered with speed, but the precision is where the human comes in. The human has to do a better job of, protect it and deliver
Yeah.
it with precision.
I love it. Where does doubt show up for
Doubt.
you the most?
I think doubt is coming from, I think, the family that I think to discuss publicly where I'm not gonna lie, it's a little disarming, but then I imagine too, where it's like, hey, we just operate in different worlds. And I know as long as you know, they're always here for me. And yeah, this is not a factor of the world where they don't understand because many of them work in the administrative, governmental affairs, policy legislation firms, and I'm totally adjacent from that world where they're the final guardrails, and we're just more the innovators, the creator side, and I accept that. And mostly, I said, okay, it's okay as long as performed at the highest level, then they'll be fine, and there'll be no friction within that. That's where the doubt is. That's how I manage it.
Yeah.
Sure, sure.
Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it. It's in all of our lives. Most of us just kind of like cover it up or don't really talk about it. But like I think it's powerful to talk about all of it and like how it all fits because it's a part of it. Doubt just is really just really being present to all of the things that come up, not just like editing or editing ourselves. It's part of it. It's not something to be ashamed of or discounting the value of it. It's there to show us these spaces where
Yes.
more clarity wants to come into our life. I just think we're trained at a really young age to uh, not to know how to process those feelings that don't feel so great. But as you build anything, especially in the world that we're building it inside
Right.
of, it just is a part of it. So, just I think it's really important that we stamp that into this today's episode as part of the conversation. But as you as an artist and the artist side of you and the strategist side of you, what does the artist side of you understand that the
I think
strategist
the
doesn't?
artist side of me that I understand that the strategist doesn't is the ability to improvise and to explain the improvisation. To explain the improvisation is like, what are the roles of the participants and see what is their role when we're creating a product is like, okay, the medical affairs wants the accuracy of the data. The brand wants the emotional angle. The regulatory affairs is to ensure that we manage the guidelines of the FDA, for example. The legal is also for, the language that is measured within these channels. So I think that's where the artist is. I think the artist being distant from the outside world, the artist within me kind of sees that, hey, we're all communicating wrong. We're not sure how to streamline that everybody's content. And I think that's the motivation of K-Band Digital Consulting is like, hey, everybody's got different intentions and perspectives, but we all want to deliver a product that helps people suffering from skin disease, for example. Everybody's coming with best intent, but we're also in protecting the industry regulations that are within their roles. And I think as an artist, it's just basically say like, hey, okay, these are the 4 different perspectives, and we have to imagine how to get it right. And that's the advantage of the artist that I can bring into the discussion within the healthcare marketers.
Also fascinating. See, it's this that dichotomy about having that artist brain, because your background's like in pharmaceuticals, right? Like
Yeah,
that's like
primarily, although it's
where
been
you come
worked
from,
across
right?
consumer
From
goods and a little bit of energy and finance, but it's primarily healthcare pharmaceutical products. Yeah.
yeah. So that's a very definite way they want their message out. Now you're taking you're putting you inside of the thing that you love to do and creating and using all of you, not just these little segmented parts about what value used to mean, but you're creating a whole new feel for it. What has that taught you about yourself right now
I think what this
as
taught
you
me
put
about
yourself through this
myself
experience?
is the ability to really listen, is like really see the outcomes and listen to my abilities to craft a solution. It's like I think that's really what I'm learning is trusting more within myself and that I've had the ability to craft solutions better than I was even aware of. And I think too, professional and emotional
Mm,
perspective, as far as being a strategist, it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, of course I could do it. It's like, I just discovered that, yeah, of course I can be a solution that I think my past supervisors were challenging me that I wasn't acknowledging as well. But now I come with a better, better perspective that they're kind of wondering too, like, hey, we need, we need to see what you can deliver. And it's like, okay, well, yes, rather than just executing tasks, it's like, okay, like just give that critical thinking aspect is what I'm learning to trust more within myself that I think McKinney Ben has been mostly beneficial in that. Just trusting how I can bring a solution, proposing solutions that can be discussed and debated where I learned to not manage the, I learned to not take that personally. It's like, okay, this is good. It's all, the best intent is to find the right solution, but come up with an idea where every participant is involved and we're going to all examine the safety guidelines and look at the payers. Are we also bringing up the the free coupons, the copay solutions, assistance programs? Are they displayed properly? Are they telling a story within that payer assistance program for those who lost their health insurance? So I think the bottom line is like, I'm learning more too. It's like, hey, just trusting that my ability of research and discovery and how to present it in a clear format, frameworks will bring, I think, even more support and propensity to collaborate. And that's what innovation gives.
yeah.
Always, always.
All about that collaboration. Um, uh, Thank you for sharing that. That's it just I'm present this whole conversation about all of the spaces that we go through and just how that we're all really trying at
Right.
the end of the day just to figure out our own path. And so you're a year and a half into this new chapter. You've allowed yourself to go through all of these spaces. Um,
Yeah,
are you
I'm
ready
ready for
for
my
your
closing
closing question?
questions.
Okay, awesome. So I have no idea why that screen does that sometimes with uh, fireworks and all different kinds of things. Anyway, forget that. What is, I want you to speak to somebody that is finding themselves in that space where they've had the idea, they've been working for X company, but they weren't bringing themselves fully into the mix. And now they're in that space like a year and a half ago where you were at. What do you want to tell them about that process and in relationships to moving through it and not having to worry about making other people around you comfortable with your own transformation that you're experiencing? Like, how do they, because I know that's a part of it. You know, there's what you want to do, and then there's life about what life has told you what you want to do. What advice would you give them about transversing that space and
Yeah, I
not
think
worrying
the
about what other
advice I
people
would give
think so
them
much?
is just about how if they're looking for someone that can be a cross team leader, stakeholder manager, and also someone who can execute the task with creating the task guidelines and implementing the technical expertise, and also how we're able to collaborate in a creative space to design the best solutions from the personas that we've already researched and analyzed. And I think that's where I bring a lot of value to any firm or agency going forward is like, hey, if you're looking for someone to lead the collaboration and also create the space where everybody can participate with their ideas, opinions, and solutions.
So I just want to appreciate you for bringing that to the table today as we have the
Yeah, you're welcome.
knock off another podcast here. So I appreciate it. Thank you. For you guys listening, today may be the day to start a new conversation with yourself in regards to what are your next steps, what is inside of you not being expressed, not being seen, giving yourself permission just to be all of you all the time, every day. And remember, there's no right way. It's just one conscious choice after another one. And we will see you all on the next one. Bye, everyone.